You are listening to the Obstructed View Red Sox podcast, presented by Beyond the Monster.
All right, we're back. It's another episode of the Obstructed View Red Sox podcast. Red Sox are in search of a general manager, leader of the baseball operations department, and they're striking out a ton. We're going to go over the GM search. Gentlemen, how's it going this evening?
Good, happy, see we have something to talk about with these meetings getting up or lack thereof. It's like we said, once they hire someone, that's when all the fun can begin in terms of trades and reshaping this roster.
Good.
And
Long week.
happy Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday has that.
B, we need more enthusiasm. Get excited about baseball.
Well, the Rangers weren't playing this evening, so he was
It's the day off.
yeah, so Miggy wasn't hyped, but yeah, so the Red Sox right now, they're seemingly connected to a lot of different names, or there's been a lot of different names thrown out there of who could replace Chaim Bloom, who was fired back in September. So what we do know is that Dodgers general manager Brandon Gomes turned down the Red Sox opportunity to interview. We know that Sam Fuld, the Phillies general manager, turned down an opportunity. Derek Falvey, the president of baseball operations for the Minnesota Twins, turned down an opportunity to interview with the Red Sox. Michael Hill, the former president of the Marlins, also turned down an opportunity. And John Daniels, who was in charge of the Rangers front office for a while before he was let go and replaced by Chris Young. But it's crazy to me that the Red Sox front office, the general manager position for the Red Sox, is like the least desirable job in baseball.
I mean, I kind of agree to like a degree, but I also feel like they're kind of seeing, the ramifications of how much change is going on with that position the last 12 years, with just having three different guys, in the short leashes they've had. I think we've talked about too, having a lot of the coaching staff already in place. There's kind of a lot of variables that go into this. So I feel like if you're a GM, I'm like, all right, am I going to be there for a long time? And some of my stuff I can't even pick out.
It is a short lease, but at the end of the day, those guys came in and do what they were hired to do, essentially. I mean, Heim got the farm back where it needed to be, got under the luxury tax like he was hired to do. It's just kind of the, shit into the stick when you do your job. Now, here's the door. Go ahead and leave. Thanks for doing what you need to do. We'll bring somebody else in.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox are going to need to they're going to need to hope that this next person is going to be able to last, 5-6 years. They can't afford to have someone come in, be here, and completely bomb out for the next, 2 or 3 seasons. Because then it's going to really start to, question as a whole, what is this operation doing and what has changed since they took over. I go back though, and I think about when they bought the team, they let go of Dan Duquette, and it really wasn't like super clear who was going to run the Red Sox at that time. Like Theo Epstein wasn't the household name that he is now. Theo Epstein was very much just like, I think, what a lot of Red Sox fans are doing right now on social media. Theo was an up-and-coming executive. Chaim Bloom was an up-and-coming guy. And I think now Red Sox fans are afraid of the up-and-coming guy because they're afraid they're going to get Chaim Bloom again. But I think Red Sox fans are failing, or for the most part, are failing to realize there's no perfect candidate. You're not going to find the perfect candidate because that person is employed. So
That's why.
no, I was going to say, like, so I don't get why it's going to be difficult to want to take a chance on someone who is going to be like, I don't like, for example, we'll get into the names, but I'll just go throw it out there real quick. Like, I don't think James Click is up and coming. I mean, he was successful with the Astros. Granted, he took over an organization that was rebuilt by a general manager who ultimately got fired because of what he was part of. But I think that as a fan base, the expectation of what we're expecting to walk through the doors at Fenway Park needs to come down a notch and let this person do what they are hired to do and then cast judgment. But I'll let you go ahead because you had something you were going to say.
No, I agree with that. I feel like too, whoever comes in there set up well, just with what's in the farm system and the assets they have, to add talent, whether that's through trades. At least in that sense, the next person is set up decently well.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just more of, you see a lot on social media. You got everybody's preferred choices. My first question is how do you know that person is like, people are acting like they know the ins and outs of every one of these candidates. The general manager that was with the Marlins. Oh, she's the top choice. Why? Why is she the top choice? She made a couple of bold trades. Okay. There's a reason, though, that they wanted to bring in a president of baseball operations to serve over her. Why is that? Why is that the Marlins, who just made the postseason, and people think that she should be rewarded with a contract, and that's a different argument, but why did that organization want to bring someone in to oversee her operation?
It's a valid point.
And I'm not, I'll do this with some of the other candidates. So like Thad Levine, he's being criticized. Guy hasn't done anything for the Red Sox at all yet, right? But he's being criticized. Well, he's the general manager of the Twins. Well, they didn't make good trades. Okay. Well, granted, they did trade the batting champion in the AL, who went to the NL and won a batting title, but they got a frontline for the rotation. I kind of think that works out. They were bold in the last couple of years. They went out and got Sonny Gray. They've gone out and made other moves. Whether you like them or not, did anybody have Carlos Correa on their bingo card for going to the Twins? No one did. So they've gone out, they've made these moves, but yet the criticism is, well, it's the Twins. It's like, stop talking out of your ass. Like, that's exactly what it is. The fan base just take a TV timeout and they're giving like all these little opinions, and you know dick. You literally know dick about these people. You know what The Athletic is telling you or a Mass Live is telling you, unless you lived in that market and you were able to understand how the team functioned, or you're a massive fan of that organization. I'm having a hard time going to social media and reading half of these tweets and taking anything seriously. Now, with that, also to carry on with that, though, we'll go into some of the names. You have James Click. He was successful in Houston. He's now the Blue Jays, vice president of baseball strategy, whatever that means. It's just a little fancy title to have you in Toronto. A lot of people are saying through the media that he's a slam dunk, but comes with that cause for concern. He is tight with Chaim Bloom. Very good friends. Bloom recommended him for the job in Tampa Bay when he was with Tampa before going to Houston. You know full well that Chaim Bloom has given him the ins and outs of that Red Sox operation, ownership, Alex Cora, soup to nuts, like top to bottom. I would like James Click because I think that he would be successful here. I don't think he's going to come here.
Yeah. I mean, I would like him to, but I would be surprised if we get the notification that James Click has been hired.
You would be or you wouldn't be?
I would be surprised. I would be surprised.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. Yeah, I would be surprised by that. So, but he's probably looking at the candidates and qualification wise, he's won a World Series. Again, caveat with that, he took over a team that was primed to win a World Series, but still they won.
Just don't give me Huntington. Don't give me Huntington.
So we'll go into him. We'll go into Neil Huntington, who was with the Pittsburgh Pirates for a long time. Now we'll go into a little bit of his resume. Fans are going to quickly go and gravitate towards the Glasnow trade, where he traded Glasnow and Meadows and Shane Baz for Chris Archer. Which, I guess at the time, if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're trying to be bold, blew up in your face. Glasnow, when healthy, is a frontline rotation guy. Meadows, he's been hurt last couple of years. I think healthy, great hitter in your lineup. And Baz is out. He had surgery as well.
He also orchestrated the Garrett Cole trade, though, which at the time, the Pirates were giving up a former number one pick for, I think it was a year and a half control, and they got back Colin Moran, who was below average. Jason Martin, who played in, I think, 30 games and hit low 200s. Best, they did get Joe Musgrove, who they had flipped. So that was the only silver lining, but that was another trade when it's like you're trading a number one first overall pick, and the most you got out of it was Musgrove for 2 years.
I think looking at Huntington, what I would do is take a step back from those trades and take a look at, all right, so he's the GM of the Pirates, low budget club, not a lot of money to spend. So what did his operation look like from scouting and player development? What players came through that pipeline that were successful, that were staples with the Pittsburgh Pirates? Because I think that's what you have to kind of judge him on versus, again, you still got to judge him on the trades, because if he's swinging and missing on the talent going through the pipeline, and then he's swinging and missing in the trades, this tells me the guy just can't evaluate the talent at the level that I think the Red Sox are going to need. So, like, my concern would be is, who's our Shane Baz that he might trade? Who's our Tyler Glasnow that he might trade? Same thing with Meadows. What's that pitcher that's out there that he's going to go ahead and take those three prospects and bring back? And will that be good enough? Because the first trade that he makes, and then in 2 years, if it doesn't work out, that's going to be the quick narrative. Or even in that season as well, if that arm or outfield or whatever it is doesn't perform. To me, I would stay away from Neil Huntington. I just don't. It's just very vanilla. There's no buzz. That's like saying I'm hiring my neighbor, Neil Huntington. My accountant, Neil Huntington, is now the general manager of the Red Sox. That's what that feels like to me.
Oh, that's true. I honestly forgot he was still in baseball when I saw that. He's one of the options. But I agree, if I had to make a list out, he would probably be in like my bottom two if I had to rank all the people we've heard about so far.
Michael Hill, same thing. Granted, he's out of the equation. Another one of those guys that I think what's hard is they were with an organization that was either low budget, ownership's a mess. So it's really hard to kind of gauge whether or not they're going to be a fit for the Red Sox. And then granted, he's not going to be part of it. Breslow's intriguing because of what he's been able to do with the Cubs pitching program. That's intriguing. to me, and from that standpoint of getting someone in here who's going to be, if they are going to hire him and you want to go pitcher first focus for this organization, to me, but again, are you running into kind of what I just said before to not run into is Hein Bloom? Is that another Bloom? Is he going to be able to make the moves that need to be made? Go with what do you think, Miggy? Awesome. So I'm thinking that Miggy is so taken away from this conversation. All right, you're back.
He's alive. Well, I mean, I feel like my one tidbit about Breslov is that he has. Oh, he's just straight up gone. He has. We know he's played in Boston before. I don't know how much that's going to factor into the decisions, but I feel like at least he's a guy that knows the expectations for the market. So I feel like that might be one caveat, or maybe, I don't know, just one thing you could add to the positives.
I think the whole thing is a giant crapshoot.
Yeah.
It's a giant crapshoot. I personally, if I had to just choose one name, I liked the idea of Brandon Gomes, not because he's the local guy. I like the idea of Brandon Gomes because he pitched in baseball. He went and started from the bottom. He did all of the grunt style work, did multiple different positions, learned an organization through Tampa Bay. Now he's in LA. He rose through LA. He was influential on their pitching program. Now, granted, there's guys that have been hurt, similar to Tampa, Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Walker Buehler. These guys have all this potential in the world, and then their arms explode. But to me, kind of felt like it would have been a good move because you're getting someone who came from two organizations that have front office stability, that have shown they can be competitive. The only thing that those two teams are shown for is a World Series in 2020, which people are going to dispute or whatever that might be. I like the idea of Brandon Gomes.
Yeah. I mean, he was probably my favorite when this first started just because of the organizations he's been with. And regardless of what the Dodgers have done in the postseason, they've been very dominant in the regular season. So at least, he knows how to build that. So that's why I kind of feel like it was unfortunate when, he said he wasn't going to interview for the position.
Yeah, I mean, Fold wouldn't have been bad either. Get someone that's, been under the tutelage of Dombrowski, and whether you love him or hate him in Boston, Dombrowski was still successful. They won a World Series, came in, and he did what the team paid him to do. Internally, Ramiro feels like the guy that's going to get the job. Talked to somebody today, and I said, does it feel like we're getting closer to a decision with all of these names that are starting to emerge? And they said it feels like they're weeks away, which still makes me a little concerned if we think that we're weeks away, because the World Series is right around the corner. We probably got 2 weeks of baseball left. I'd like to think that the Red Sox can have a general manager or whatever their title is going to be in place by Halloween. I don't think it's too much to ask for, but judging by, I feel like they're weeks away is what I was told. That doesn't really give me the warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, well, I feel like I was getting that sense too, just by how I feel like the last 2 days we've seen a bunch of names, out of once it started as a slow search, and now we're seeing all the preliminary interviews, which that's why I feel like the sense too that they're just getting started, because now we're kind of just figuring out, all right, these have been confirmed or these are lined up. Feels like they're just going through the first round.
I wonder if there's a name though that we haven't heard of that they're holding out for. Is there someone else in baseball that hasn't been brought up yet? And I haven't really put much thought into it up until literally right now. But is there another name that they're holding out for that's in another organization that they may have touched base with briefly, and they're waiting until the postseason is over before jumping in and going further? Or is this cast of characters, this motley crew of names that's thrown out there, and the internals, is this what it ultimately is going to be? At the end of the day, just want the person who's going to get hired by the Red Sox to begin to move this franchise forward, to put this team in a position where it's competitive baseball in the summer and we're watching exciting baseball in October. That, to me, should be the entry level. But I do understand why some names give people cause for concern. I think you just got to kind of let these people do their thing and just kind of see what happens. But I don't know, Miggy, you're back on the podcast. What's the
Hey guys, we talked about it already. If we didn't want Kim, if whether we wanted Kim or not.
Well, I didn't necessarily say whether he wanted her or not. I just was kind of playing devil's advocate and saying there's a reason why the Marlins were only going to offer her a, that option or whatever it was, or why they were going, like, why was it that they were going to bring in a president of baseball operations to oversee her front office? Like, there's two sides to both stories. We basically got her side briefly of, hey, I'm opting out. And then it's starting to leak out, oh, they wanted to hire someone for their front office. So why was that? And I think when that information comes out, we can understand maybe as to why, what the deal was. But at that point, did the Red Sox hire Kim or not? So I'm not saying I wouldn't want Kim. I'm just saying I'd like to know why the Marlins, excuse me, I'd like to know why the Marlins wanted to hire someone to run her front office and she was going to have to answer to somebody.
We can all agree that none of us care about whether the farm systems, they bought him in here to build that just so we could eventually trade it off and get pieces for the major league squad, right? Y'all still going to care about the farm system? So the Marlins have what, the 27th ranked farm?
I personally think the person that's going to run the team needs to be smart with how they're going to move on from pieces in the farm system. That you have a farm system for the whole sole purpose of trading them off. Let me rephrase this. You have a farm system for the sole purpose of promoting talent that can be young and controllable, so you can go ahead and sign bigger free agent contracts while also taking the players that are seemingly, for example, if you have an up-and-coming third baseman, they're not going to play third base because you have Rafael Devers. So unless that person is going to shift positions or Devers is going to eventually shift the position, what value do they have to the organization at that point? You know what I mean? Like, does having player X, who's the number 51 overall prospect in baseball, do anything for you if they're just sitting in the system? Whereas you take that prospect and you package them in a deal and you go get that young controllable starter that you need. Or you get that, I don't know, what do the Sox need? I mean, I'm not going to trade a top prospect for a second baseman right now, but I'd trade a top prospect to get a good quality starting pitcher.
So kind of going off of like the whole being smart prospects thing, I'm sure you guys saw that whole hypothetical for Juan Soto today.
Yep.
There was a bunch of hate for that. We kind of all seemingly assume Verdugo is going to be gone this offseason. If not, we can all assume he's not, signing back. Tanner Howell, you have the question marks with him. What'd you push through with that trade? Because, I mean, you said the outfielder, you have Miguel Weiss coming in. I mean, he was involved in that, but you'll have Juan Soto, Yoshi, and then Rafael. I know we've talked about him, whether or not he'd still be here. You have Willier. Would you still push through with that trade?
I guess I would trade if you're going to have a window to do an extension.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot to give up for a 1-year rental that you can just go ahead and throw a bunch of cash to in the winter of the following season. But you also need to be bold. So you're getting Blyce coming back off of a year where he blew his shoulder out. Tanner Houck is likely not a starter. He probably is more of that bulk inning Josh Winkowski reliever type. Can start in a pinch. Verdugo, we know, is pretty much all but gone. And what was the other name of the deal?
Perales,
Yeah.
Luis Perales.
You're going to have to give up a young, controllable arm. So I think Soto and Devers is a dangerous combination, regardless of the fact that they hit from the same side. So
And Casas.
and Casas. But I think at that point, though, you have to find a right-handed bat. Where do you find that bat, and where do they go in? Is that bat a center fielder, and you've now traded Jaron Duran, cashing in while his stock is hot, and you're getting a high profile out. But the thing is, like, I don't really think that they need the outfielder. They need the pitching first. I would address the pitching, but a 24-year-old Soto is tantalizing. Jamie, go ahead.
No, I agree. I mean, I would only do that deal if an extension's in place because that's a lot to give up for a lot of that uncertainty. I mean, if you can do that package and hold on to Rafaela, I feel like that's a pretty good trade, all things considered. But I would focus on pitching before I, would make that trade my sole priority.
And all the crap that trade got is a contingent of fans who love the idea of having a top-ranked farm system. Like I think they're so disconnected from, like, you want this, the sole end of the game is to have a winning World Series franchise, not to be the number 3 ranked, farm system for the next 15 years. Like, who gives a shit? Clearly people do. But at the end of the day, you want to find that balance. So you got, like, in any event, at some point, some of these kids are going to get traded. There was never going to be a world that Miguel Bleis was going to be in center and Meyer is going to play short and York's going to be at second, Casas with Devers. Like, it never works out that way. So they have some of these pieces, so use them to your advantage. Like, you could trade a York, but you've also drafted a ton of infielders the last couple of seasons. So you seemingly have people within that pipeline to replace. So if you were to trade a Nick York, you're not in a spot where you're like, oh crap, I just traded someone who could probably be maybe on the 2024 team second half of the season. I traded Nick York and player X because I went out and got a legitimate, number 2, number 3 starter for my rotation. And then I ended up taking some of that other money, and maybe instead of, losing out on Jordan Montgomery and offering him 18 million, I offered him 21 and just said the hell with it, or just something to that whatever effect. You know what I mean? Like, it just, this overvaluing of the farm, it's not like, it's not what it's made. We're making it out to be so much more than what it is. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's just not going to work that way. Look at the Rangers. Like, the Rangers developed and they still got good talent. I mean, like Evan Carter, literally he was in the minors, and then 23 games or 23 at bats. What was it?
23 games.
23 games.
Yeah.
And then
23 games.
And then he looks like he's a budding superstar in the postseason. So,
well, I feel like
good.
I just feel like the Rangers are a perfect example in terms of developing talent, and then also, they spent big on a couple of free agents, and I feel like they kind of have a good example of the mix, that perfect mix.
Yeah, I mean, they somewhat did it right. I mean, again, like, just think of what they would look like if DeGrom had a healthy season, but then again, DeGrom hasn't had a healthy season in like 10 years. But, they cashed in though on Jordan Montgomery. They went out and identified someone who could seemingly be a big game pitcher, and he's been a big game pitcher this postseason.
Thursday we'll find out what he's like tomorrow.
Honestly, with him, I don't know if I would have started him just because he's in the time off that he's had, but still, I mean,
for Acuna.
I think if
I
you've
think-
done it right and you have these core pieces in place, you can have all these young kids who are coming up that you can be confident and comfortable in trading, like the Astros did to get with Verlander and trading, Gilbert in that deal and all that other. So like I get it. Like it's we have to be okay with taking the prospects off of our teat a little bit and let them begin to, get nurturing from another means other than the suckle of the teat, because like these prospects, not all of them are going to work. Like they're not going to play for the Red Sox. So some of these guys are going to need to be moved, and we need to be comfortable with that, and not that, because I'm just telling you, the second that Nick York or one of those kids are traded, there's going to be the people who are still supporting Bloom, which I don't know how you could. I guess it's the same people that would be still supporting Dombrowski. It's just going to be madness. We should be in the business of wanting to see the Red Sox be a World Series contender, not the Red Sox, not the Woo Sox competing for a title, not the Sea Dogs competing for a title in Greenville.
Shout out Greenville.
Like that should be gravy. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing MLB The Show and you're simulating your season that you're doing, and you're getting all these notifications that like your farm system's in the playoffs, like that's what it should be. It should be the annoyance of you're just skipping through those notifications and letting them go and do their thing, not it being a big deal that the Sea Dogs were a friggin' wagon this year.
Hey, just want to say 2K13, my Sea Dogs team, my farm system building was impeccable. From 2K13 to 2K15, we had some good years there.
Sometimes you build perennial winners, and other times you don't. But
I feel like that's a good point. I mean, I feel like that's a good point too, just in terms of you brought up earlier with all the infielders they have, like, if maybe make some moves based on your infielder depth, or kind of smart teams use their farm system. They're able to identify the guys that, all right, we can trade, we can deal from our strengths. I feel like the next GM for the Sox kind of has to do that. And, take in mind not all these prospects are going to be in the majors. So let's kind of extract the best value that we can in this present moment.
yeah, I mean, it's why you drafted Ramiro. It's why you drafted Coffee. It's why you drafted York. It's why you drafted Zenatello. It's why you drafted, continue on with the names, right? It's why you drafted all these guys. So you have that flexibility. The farm system is not going to take a massive hit, even if you trade 3 or 4 of those guys. And you're probably not going to go ahead and trade like 6 people either. You know what I mean? Like you're going to probably subtract a little bit to bring in something of substance, and then you got free agency. But whoever ultimately is in charge of the Red Sox, whether it's Ramiro or Groupman or Taboni or Levine, Breslow, Ing, whoever, their job is going to already be incredibly difficult, because you're going to have that over your head, whether or not you can potentially be out of a job in like 3 or 4 years because of the ownership group. When John Henry decides to wake up and be like, oh, we're not playing well, dollar tickets. So when that happens, right? So, and then, Alex Cora, what is his leash exactly? Yeah, he's got this year. He's now a lame duck manager. Are they going to evaluate him for the rest of this season and see if this team can get back on track, and then say to the general manager, okay, look, we got back on track, we should keep Cora, or all right, bring in your own guy?
True. I mean, I feel like I'm interested to see that too, especially if, this team starts to struggle depending on what they do in the offseason. I feel like in the first couple of months, he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny if the 2024 campaign doesn't get out. They don't start out on the right foot.
Of course, we know Cora doesn't want to manage for too long. We all, people. Well, what's the word I'm looking for here? People want him in the front office sooner rather than later. Do you think him staying here to manage is going to hurt that chance for him coming up in the future? Say he has a bad season this year and he just kind of blew everything off the doors for him.
No, because I mean, they don't necessarily have to fire him at the end of the contract. They could just reassign him and say, okay, we're going to re-sign you and then reassign you within the organization.
Yeah.
Like that could potentially happen. To me, it's almost like if they want Cora in the front office and he thinks it's something he could have done, why don't you just ride out Bloom for one more year? Ride it out, and then at the end of next season, be like, all right, do you think it's time? But then again, if he's saying it's not time, like what does he need? So are they going to try to groom him as a general manager while he's managing the Red Sox? Because I want Alex Cora's attention to be on the on-field product for this team all season long, because this, like, again, it's about getting back to the postseason. It's about playing meaningful baseball games in October and ultimately trying to win a World Series. Alex Cora's attention needs to be on that focus 100%. Maybe he'll be able to do both, but there's a reason why teams hire a manager and there's teams that hire a general manager. I don't know if you've happened to see the New England Patriots over the last handful of seasons, but the general manager and the head coach is struggling to do both jobs.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to go through the show without pain. That's all I have.
I mean, it's Patriot fans don't understand pain. This current generation of majority of Patriot fans do not understand pain. They don't understand, what it was in the early 90s, and neither do I. I wasn't really cognizant of that. But what I'm saying is that this team was mediocre the Patriots were mediocre up until Bill Parcells was hired. This was when was a laughing stock of football.
Steve Grogan, elite QB.
So they go out, you have an owner that's trying to dump the franchise out to another market to get the hell out from underneath it. Meanwhile, Kraft was smart and just bought up all the land around the stadium and then bought at the time the stadium. So, and then ultimately prevented that from happening. But it wasn't until Bill Parcells and then obviously Robert Kraft that came aboard that kind of began to change the narrative of the Patriots, because you had relatively successful seasons. You went to the Super Bowl with Parcells. You went and hired Pete Carroll. It's not the rah-rah Pete Carroll Seahawks that you had, but I remember the Patriots went and started the season 6-2. They went into the break, that bye week, after potential opportunity to hit a field goal to win the game. Vinatieri missed it against the Chiefs. They ended up going 2-6 to finish the season at the end of that season, and then rest is history from there. So then Belichick came aboard, but they were mediocre. I don't want it. The Red Sox shouldn't be teetering into the conversation of being mediocre. And I kind of feel like right now, when you bring up the Red Sox, it's just like, oh yeah, it's that
Those guys.
there's a tarnish on the brand, and the only way to wipe away that tarnish right now is winning, and winning quick.
Ohtani.
Oh, look, you bring in Ohtani, and you're gonna have people, jumping for joy.
Sure.
Because you went and did something that you haven't done since Manny Ramirez. You went out in free agency and you signed a legitimate horse.
Well, I feel like to your point too, that's why this offseason is so important. They have to, be aggressive, because you can't have another year of what we watched this past summer.
Aggressive, but smartly.
Don't
throw out.
Bring in the right pieces, but don't go out there looking for, Pablo Reyes type of diamond in the rough. Just kind of tinkering. Go out there, bring in some elite arms. Put this team in a position to win, and win big next year. So you're, next October we're sitting here watching meaningful games, or it's not the end of the season, and we're looking forward to, next year and focusing on what's in the farm.
I mean, if they want to go out and get a Reyes, I mean, a Lopez, that's fine. But do it after you've gone out and you've signed, the Nolas or the Snells of the world. If you want to go ahead and try, you want to find that diamond in the rough and you want to go ahead and then, strike and grab, Edward Cabrera from the Marlins, but you've gone out and signed one or two other guys, fine. Make a break. But I feel like every year we're going to say it's make or break. Question is who wants to be the general manager of the Boston Red Sox? It's almost like a game show. That's how they should do it. They should do this as a game show style. Put it on Nesson 360, make you pay $30 a month. People will watch this train wreck.
You probably have horrible camera angles,
I'm sure Tom Caron will want to host it.
Who wants to be the GM?
Who wants to be the GM of the Boston Red Sox?